remember when we've built this? Inspired by this. And you guys absolutely loved it? Well, today we'll build this. Inspired by this. And I really hope you guys will like it as well. Hello guys, this is Caesar Creates, and welcome back to my channel. It is time for another episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo. In this video we'll build a habitat for another animal from the Grasslands animal pack, and I am talking here of course about the blue wildebeest. But the blue wildebeest won't be the only animal that we'll add today. It will live together in one enclosure with the plain zebra from the base game. So we are building an enclosure today for two different ungulates, two different hoofstock animals, and I am very excited for that because I love building for those guys. So of course we are adding this habitat today in our African section of the Elm Hill City Zoo. I am building this opposite to the Scimitar-Horned Oryx habitat that we built some time ago. It is really close to the wetlands house that we also finished probably half a year ago or something like that. And this is the place where I'll be slowly developing and building our African section. So there are a lot of different animals to add, but more on that later. As you guys could see in the intro, this habitat is again very inspired by one of the very iconic buildings from the Berlin Zoo. You guys really loved the Scimitar-Horned Oryx episode. You loved the building that I created for those guys. That was really heavily inspired by one of the buildings in the Berlin Zoo that is for the Gemsbok and the Gravy Zebra, if I remember correctly. The video got so many positive comments, and also it got recommended to many people who discovered my channel because of it. So I am very I really love this episode. This is one of the ones that I remember the most. And also a lot of you, especially the ones who live in Berlin or who visited the Berlin Zoo, recognize that building. And you guys told me that I did a really good job recreating this building. So thank you again for that. And I had in mind that in Berlin there is another very similar building to the ones that we already recreated. It is even larger, it is really beautiful, and it houses the common eland antelope and the grand zebra. I guess the grand zebra is actually a subspecies of the plain zebra that we have in game. So I decided that when the time will come and I will build for the zebras, I really want to recreate that building. And my initial plan was to house them with the black wildebeest, but since we got the blue wildebeest, and I must say that I really prefer the blue one, I decided to house those guys together and try to recreate that building. Maybe it's not an actual recreation, it's more like it's very inspired by that building from Berlin Zoo. And the thing that I love the most about this building and about this habitat is that most of the zoos just don't take too much effort while building, habitats for ungulates, for hoofstock. Those habitats are often really plain. They have some a wooden shed for a shelter or some really plain concrete building, and that's it. But what I love about those two habitats is that the hoofstock in this zoo, in Berlin Zoo, they have some really beautiful habitats with really detailed and themed shelter, and you don't see that much of that in different zoos. So of course I really love building for hoofstock, you guys really know that, and I wanted to give them something special. And I also really love the blue wildebeest from the new Grasslands pack. That's why I wanted to build something very nice for that. But yeah, recreating this building was something that I really loved and also really hated at the same time. I loved it because I think that it really suits the area that we've I've built it in. I love it because, as I told you guys, this is a really nice shelter for our ungulates, and we don't see that much. But I hated it because it took me so much time to build, and I must say that I had my doubts while building it because it was so many pieces and so much time. But in the end, I decided to take my time. That's why you guys had to wait for this video. So I took my time. I built it one part after the other, not forcing myself, just playing for 1 or 2 hours a day, adding some details and so on. That's why the speed build might be a bit chaotic today because I was just not doing it in 1 or 2 sittings. I was just building it for a week or something. So I hope you guys will forgive me for that. Also, of course, I won't show you the entire process of building that because it took so much time. The speed build, I didn't record everything. I didn't record the interior. I didn't record doing the back of the shelter and so on, the one of the sides, and the speed build was already 1.5 hours, so I was able to cut out the half of it because now it's like 43 minutes or something like that, but still it took so much time to finish, and that's why you guys had to wait. But there is something that I think you guys will like. I decided to upload this shelter to the workshop. So the link will be down in the description to this video. And if you like to go and explore this building by yourself, you are welcome to do so. If you like to add it to your zoos and use it in your ungulates shelters, you are also welcome to do so. There are some hidden things, like we have an additional floor in there, and I also decorated that. Although no one will probably ever go in there. I did that, but there is a lot of details inside that you guys really can go and watch. I also used a couple of blueprints inside, so I will of course link them down in the description, and I will talk more about them later in the video. Because now I wanted to address something. I have so many questions under my videos why I am taking so much inspiration from Berlin Zoo. Am I German? Can I speak German? Do I live in Berlin or anything like that? And the answer is no, no, and no. I can speak a bit German because I used to learn German in school, but it was a long time ago. So the things I can say is, for example, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. I hope that was right. But yeah, I live in Poland. I live in the north part of Poland. And when I was a child, my parents really enjoyed Berlin. I don't know, they really loved to go there. We are living 5 hours away by driving a car from Berlin, so we used to come there very often, at least 1 or 2 times a year. They prefer to go, for example, for a weekend to Berlin than to go to Warsaw, because the Warsaw is capital of Poland, if you don't know, also a big city. Because the road back then was a bit the same. Maybe the road to Warsaw was 4.5 hours, so we were visiting Berlin quite a lot. And me being a child who loved animals and zoos, I always wanted to go to Berlin Zoo. Of course, we didn't go every time, but I was there quite often, so I had some really nice memories from that zoo when I was a child. And also, I think that it might be my favorite zoo from all the zoos that I visited up to this point. I'll visit the San Diego Zoo soon, so this will probably be my favorite looking at the pictures. But right now, Berlin Zoo is really one of my favorite zoos, and the entire Elm Hill City Zoo was inspired by Berlin Zoo because I loved the concept of that zoo, that it is a very old zoo and it has those renovated parts. So it's part of this is really old with this soul. You can really see the history of that place, and some parts of it are really modern, opened recently and so on. So this was my inspiration for the Elm Hill City Zoo, and I know this zoo so well that some of the habitats are the ones that I really like and I really wanted to recreate in Planet Zoo, and that's why we are building so many things inspired by Berlin. This is the whole explanation, and I think that it won't be the last last thing that I actually plan to build, like being inspired by the Berlin Zoo. Probably the reptile house that I plan to build quite soon will be also a bit inspired by the reptile house and aquarium in Berlin, but you guys will see that when the time is right. By the way, when it comes to the upcoming videos, I promise you guys that the next Planet Zoo video will be from the Desert Adventure Park. I know that I told you guys some time ago that I really want to like continue more or less the even pace of videos when it comes to different zoos and projects, but I really wanted to add all the grasslands animals to the Elm Hill City Zoo, the ones that I plan to add. I know that we still are missing the striped hyena, but I will add it not now, when I will add it when the African area will be like more shaped, so I know the exact positioning of the habitat, but also something that is coming to the Desert Adventure Park is quite large and quite big, and I know that it will take me a lot of time, a lot of thinking, so I didn't want to do it just yet. I did wanted to build for the blue wildebeest first, and it of course turned out to be probably even more difficult, but yeah, this is on me and my planning. But yeah, you can expect that the next episode, next video will be from the Desert Adventure Park, and then we'll be back to the Elm Hill City Zoo, and we'll probably more or less do them one after the other, unless that new DLC comes and messes up our plans again. And I actually wanted to talk with you guys about the new DLC in this video, but we'll do it later. We have plenty of time today. Again, this is a longer video. I hope you guys will forgive me for that. I didn't plan it. I really didn't. I thought that it'll be a quick build, but those recent projects like the giraffe habitat from the Desert Adventure Park or the butterfly greenhouse took so much time to build. Now, of course, the speed builds are longer because if I am building longer, if it takes much time, there's more footage, and I don't want to like cut out half of it so you guys don't know what is going on the screen. I still want to make the speed build make sense so that you can follow it, you can try to build alongside it, or you can just, you know, be inspired by the things that I built, and this is the main goal of those videos. Okay, we are more than 12 minutes into the speed builds, and I still haven't explained anything that I did in this video, so maybe let's focus on that right now. So the whole idea for this habitat is a bit similar to the one that we did for the Scimitar-Horned Oryx. Of course, I didn't want to make them the same, so I decided to change some things, but both of those habitats have the moat that prevents the animals from escaping. And what I love about the Berlin Zoo, one of those things, is that there are a lot of those moats, and what it creates is that you have this feeling of the zoo without any fences, anything between you and the animals, just this ditch or I don't know, this hole in the ground that prevents them to from escaping. This is really natural, and I think it's really good for animals as well if they don't see those fences around them all the time. There are so many different kinds of moats used in the zoos. There are dry moats, there are moats with water. If you have dry moats, they are sometimes filled with just soil, and there is some I don't know, foliage growing there on the bottom of the moat. Sometimes it is just concrete and nothing else. Sometimes when, just as I did it, it was supposed to be concrete, but over time, some soil and some plants just took over it, and it became like dirty with moss, with different, I don't know, just some weeds growing in there. So this was my idea for this moat, and we did also something like this for the Scimitar-Horned Oryx. When it comes to the moats with water, there are also two approaches. Sometimes the animals can enter the water, but the other shore, like the one next to the guest, is too high for them to climb out of the water, so they cannot escape. But sometimes the water is also like down a bit, so it's not wise for them to jump in there, or it prevents them from escaping as well. So the dry moat may seem not to be very secure, but it is high enough. I mean, the ditch is deep enough for the animals to see that this is quite high and that they shouldn't probably fall or jump in there, because they might harm themselves, break their leg or something like that. So this is their instinct, their natural instincts that the zoos just use to house the animals in a bit like better looking habitats. If they wanted to, maybe, I don't know, but maybe they will be able to jump out there and jump out of the habitats. Maybe it could jump down and jump out from the habitat, but I haven't heard about any escaped zebras from this zoo. So yeah, sometimes there's also like a invisible, for the guests at least, hot wire in there, just to be entirely sure that they won't escape, but I haven't seen anything like that in the Berlin Zoo, in this mode. And yeah, whenever you guys ask me what you can do to improve your habitats, one of my answers would be to try doing modes or different kinds of barriers instead of using in-game barriers or just, you know, fences. Try doing something like that, and the habitats will be looking more realistic and more modern, more just looking better in general. So yeah, this is what I would recommend. If you are playing with terrain tools in Planet Zoo and doing those ditches or modes or anything like that, it is very hard to achieve those really sharp edges. If you want to do a 90 degrees angles or anything, is like almost impossible. That's why I am always trying to find ways of covering those edges while building those modes. So here I covered them on the guest side with some mulch pieces, and on the animal side, I mean habitat side, I did like a sort of cobbled path or something like that. I created it using the small tiny aquatic rocks that were added to the game with the Euro pack, I think, and some decals, and this was totally inspired by the habitat from the Berlin Zoo. They also had something like that, and it was so useful here for covering those ugly bits of the terrain. I also created like a little water section for those guys, so they will be able to drink from it or just have a little swim. This was a really interesting concept, also inspired by the habitat from Berlin. That's one of the walls or one of the edges, or I don't know how to call it, of the water section is in fact the wall of the moat. So it all like just works, blends together and so on. It looks so nice in the end. And this time I'll be actually doing a lined water section, so I haven't done that for such a long time because I just hate doing that. It is so much work, and working with those really uneven like corners and angles, I don't like to do it, but here I decided to do so it can be like drained during the winter time. There will be a drain on the bottom of it, or also a little tap to fill it in. So yeah, another touch of realism, I guess, but it was certainly a lot of work to do so. On the right hand side from the water section, there is also like a huge, I don't know, planter or just a terrain thing that is a bit like curved in the habitat. This is also something a bit inspired by Berlin Zoo. They had something like that, but a bit smaller. I decided to make it a big like chunk of the terrain where we'll have a lot of trees and so on. It will give both some shadow to the habitat, but also I have this like big intersection of the paths in there, so I decided to cover it a bit with some foliage because you know, the zebras and the wildebeest are probably a bit shy animals, so not to stress them with high amounts of people that will just, you know, be using this intersection, I decided to make this like barrier, this green barrier between them and the guests, so that also the view into the habitat is a bit divided between two viewing sections. You will be able to see it all in the cinematic shots in this video, and you can expect quite a long cinematic shots in this video because we have a lot to cover: the habitat, the interior of the shelter, and also we have a very nice views and sights when it comes to this habitat. So for example, from the one side of the habitat, the guests can see both of those buildings that are in the similar style, so the building for the zebras and the wildebeest, and also the very ornamental and very beautiful building for the Scimitar-Horned Oryx. Of course, I will show you that view in the cinematics by the end, but also from some other angles you can see, for example, the rhino and elephant house, and also the wetlands house. So the location or the position of this habitat is really good. I really like it. And I am glad that we have another big chunk of our zoo filled in. This was always a bit of an empty space in here, and now we have this huge habitat filling a lot of space. I also did some foliage around it in the places that we were missing it, added some fences for the guests and so on. And to be honest, I need to focus more on that. Whenever we'll build a new habitat, I need to remember to film more the space around it. I did it for the first time in the butterfly video. I did a lot around the habitat in the places that we sort of skipped building our zoo, and thanks to that, it is coming like along, and it is just developing faster, and we don't have those empty spaces. So whenever I can, I will try to add some fences, some foliage and other things around the habitats, just to be able to finish this zoo someday. I actually counted. I did my maths, and not counting any future DLC animals, I am sure that we'll have a lot of them coming. I'm not sure, but I suspect that we have at least 1 year, 1 full year of DLCs in ahead of us. But not counting them, we have 32 animals still to add. So you can think that it's a lot, but compared to all the animals that we have in the zoo, it's probably not so much. So yeah, we are slowly seeing, like, maybe in a very long distance the end of the zoo, but still there's 32 animals to go, and some of them are very major ones. So I definitely want to add, for example, hippos. I want to add, I don't know, hyenas. I want to add what else? All the reptiles, Komodo dragons. You guys ask about those so many times here, but we would definitely add them. We'll have the cassowaries, we'll have all the primates like the orangutans, the bonobos, the mandrills, the siamangs. We'll have the bears, of course. We'll have the pandas, we'll have the grizzly bears, the Formosan black bear, the sun bear, and we'll have also the American bisons. So those are some of the ones that I plan to add here, and of course the ones that will come with the future DLCs. So yeah, I hope you guys are excited for the future of the Elm Hill City Zoo and for all of my plans. It is all coming, I promise you guys. I know that with a lot of different stuff that we are doing right now on the channel, the pace of the videos maybe isn't the best, but I noticed that whenever I am not uploading that much from the zoo, the videos are doing better. So you guys probably are anticipating and waiting for the new videos, and this is making me very happy. And also, I wanted to say that at the beginning of the video, but of course I forgot. We are less than 300 subscribers from 15,000 subscribers. Oh my god, this is insane, like totally insane. I remember being so happy about having 100 subscribers, and right now we'll have 15,000. That is a huge milestone, and I can't wait, of course, to achieve it. And thank you guys for that. I am so grateful that you are watching, that you are liking, that you are leaving your comments, and for all the messages, for all the love that you send me. Thank you so much. This really means the world to me. And if you are not subscribed yet and would like to help me achieve my goal of reaching 15,000 subscribers sooner, please click that subscribe button down below. This will mean very much to me. And yeah, I am thinking about something to celebrate the 15,000. I still don't have a clue what we can do, but of course I want to do something special. Maybe I have an idea, but we will see. Okay, so we talked about the moat, we talked about the water section, and we talked about the planted thing that we have surrounded by the fences that I created, especially for this habitat, using a lot of metal pieces. It is a typical ungulate fence. We also filled the moat with a lot of plants, so we have a lot of those hanging ivy that is hanging inside of the moat and it looks so nice. We have the plants on the outside of the moat and the guest area, and we also have some weeds and other things that just grown by itself in the moat. I really like the look of the entire moat. It was certainly a lot of work. Like almost half of this video is doing just the surroundings of this habitat, and the other half is doing the building. So those were the things that took so much time. And as you guys can see, we already started to work on this building. So if you are new here and you haven't watched the Scimitar-Horned Oryx episode, I will actually put the link down in the description and on the screen if you haven't. I talked a lot about this style of buildings and why I decided to go for them. So we are, I always wanted to add the African section to the Elm Hill City Zoo. And I knew that this is the section that I can go a bit themed. I can build something a bit more, maybe not so generic and modern or like classical that we are more used to into the zoo, but do something a bit more themed, but something that will still feed the vibe of the regular older city zoo. So I didn't want to go for, I don't know, mad walls and thatch roofs that we have in the Africa theme in Planet Zoo, but when I visited the Berlin Zoo quite some time ago and I saw those buildings, I thought to myself, yes, this is it. This is something that I want to do, especially that it was after the release of the Africa pack. And in the Africa pack, we got a lot of those plaster pieces that were inspired by the architecture of the Northern Africa. And this is where the idea for this entire African section was born. I really wanted to go for those bright, almost like white buildings with those ornamental, I don't know, decorations on them, like typical Northern African buildings that are not with the thatch roofs, that are not from orange mud walls or anything like that, but are still very African. And this is what I came up with. So we will have those two buildings that are very inspired by Berlin Zoo, and from now on we will a bit like improvise. So I will definitely build some habitats inspired by different habitats, but the shelters and different, I don't know, smaller things like shops in this area will be very inspired by this style. So we will have a lot of bright buildings, a lot of those ornaments on them and so on. So yeah, when it comes to this building in the Berlin Zoo, it is very old. You can find very old photos from this zoo and it was there. So I don't remember in what year it was actually built, but it was a long time ago. It used to house different ungulates. It wasn't always elands and zebras. I think at one time there were Scimitar-Horned Oryx living there. They were moved somewhere else and so on. By the way, eland is something that I am so missing in the game. This is the largest antelope on our planet, so I would love to see that. They are really common in zoos, so I really would like to see it in one of the future DLCs. So in this entire building we will have different like rooms or different sections. I wanted to say different buildings, but this is one building, but it sort of looks like it is different buildings connected. and I sort of like the messiness of it, that it has different windows, it has different heights, it has a balcony there, a window there, and a different door there, and a gate in here, and so on. So I was really inspired by that. I think that it both looks very North African, but also very zoo-ish and city zoo-ish. So it was a perfect match for our Elm Hill City Zoo. So we started to build the building from the left side, and the first part of the building is a bit like ornamental. It has those really nice shaped windows, and without owning the Africa pack, I would never be able to build something like that because I used so many pieces in here from the Africa pack. And this part of the building, I have no clue what it is in the real life, but inside I added here like a food storage for the animals, so the keepers can go there and prepare the food. So we have different vegetables, we also have like a little hay storage in there, like a sink and everything like that, just to prepare food, and a bit of the cleaning stuff for the habitat and so on. Of course, I will show you the interiors in the cinematic shots of the video. The entire like middle part of the building, so the ones that the part that has those wooden roofs, is the stalls for the animals. So the night quarters, the places that they sleep and spend the nights, and also the places where they can be separated from each other. So they have different like entrances, and they can each enter every of those entrances to one individual stall. Unfortunately, there are more animals in this habitat than the stalls in this building, but I think that the antelopes are often kept together, so there are several of them living or sleeping in one stall, so it won't be a problem. So in this main big area we have the stalls. We also have, of course, some keeper things. We have some tools, backstage tools, like stuff and so on. And we also have like an additional floor. And on this floor, and it is like a most, I think, iconic thing about this building, is the balcony. So we have this balcony, and there are often different like flowers, blooming flowers planted in those planters that are there. So I really wanted to recreate that, and I don't think that the balcony is used in Berlin Zoo, but in here I thought that maybe if the guests will book like a special experience or like backstage trip, because some zoos offer that, they'll be able to go up there and to see the view from this balcony for this beautiful habitat. And this was my idea. And on the right hand side, like a third part of the building, there will be both the gates that will be leading to the habitat. So I hid there an actual habitat gate inside of there. In the real life, the gate is not on both sides. This is probably one of the entrances to the stalls for the animals, but I decided that it will be a perfect entrance to the habitat. So I decided to make like a little tunnel beneath the building, like or in the building itself, to create like those double door gates in there, so the keepers can enter this habitat using that tunnel. And in this part of the building, we'll have a little office. I don't know why I thought about office. I didn't have any clue on what I can put it there. There was a really small room that I could use, so I added there like a desk. I added there some like paintings on the walls, so if the keeper needs to fill in some paperwork, or they can, for example, keep their like the record of all the animals living in this area of the zoo, like birth certificates and so on. This is the place to do so. And there I used a lot of different blueprints. So I used the office packed by Shiftsy, and also the paintings by Christina. Those paintings are one of my favorite blueprints ever. Like Like Christina is so talented when it comes to those small things, using the tiny little pieces in this game to create other things, like fonts, like I don't know, ornaments, different decorations, and also those beautiful paintings. So definitely have a look in the cinematic shots, and also the link to the blueprint will be down in the description to this video. And we have the windows there in this part of the building on the ground floor and on the first floor of the building, but on this first floor there's nothing there. I didn't have a clue, I didn't have an idea what to put in there, so there's just a ladder inside. If you will download the blueprint and you will be able to see it, there will be just a ladder and it leads to nowhere, so don't go there, don't check it out because there's nothing there. Yeah, this is basically all when it comes to the building. I did the backside of the building a bit different than the building in Berlin Zoo. I did it a bit simpler. I thought that no one will see that when the guests arrive in the zoo and just watch this habitat. They won't see the back of the building, and it looks so complicated. I mean, it had this like circular shape in the back, but I decided not to do it. I decided to make it more simple and use the space that I have for the holding pen for the animals, and also some things like vehicles, like containers or some boxes, I don't know, hoses and stuff like that. We will also do custom feeders that I will hang on the walls of the building. We'll do different food trough or water trough for the animals and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really a lot of work, and you will see that by the end of the video when it will all be finished, because I added so many details like after the speed build is done, like I don't know, decals, like pipes, like hoses, like I don't know, lamps and so on. So yeah, it was really a lot of work, but I am very pleased with the final product, and I hope you guys will like the building and will use it in your own zoos. Just a little something, if you will download it from the workshop and you will enjoy it, please don't forget to rate the blueprint. It really helps it to, you know, be more seen by the workshop, like more recommended to other users. So I would be very obliged. So I promised you guys that we'll talk a bit about a new upcoming DLC for Planet Zoo. I think that it will be once again out a week or two before Easter, so probably we are looking at the beginning of April, so still some time to go. And when it comes to what it will be, I still don't know. I have no clue. There are no hints. There's nothing. We can just like sort of look at the meta wish list at forums, look at the areas of the world that we are still missing the animals from, and what comes to my mind, I talked about it before the Twilight and the Grasslands pack were released. I talked about the Highlands pack or Mountains pack, so maybe there will be some animals from just living in the mountains, like different, I don't know, goats, takins, maybe wolverines and stuff like that. We still don't have those in the game, but maybe also something connected to rainforest. We are really lacking smaller monkeys. We are lacking some more tropical animals. There's also a lot of desert animals that we don't have, for example African crested porcupine, dromedary camel and stuff like that. And many people are also considering the islands pack with Fusa, with kiwi and different animals from those like regions and simply islands. So I really don't know this time. It is so hard for me to guess. Maybe you guys have some guesses. Definitely let me know down in the comments if you have any, so we can speculate together. But what I really want to do is try something different, and in the near future I would really like to record a video with my most wanted Planet Zoo animals, the animals that I still want to see in the game, because I have so many of you guys asking this question: what animals would you like to build for, what animals would you like to still see in the game? And I of course have my list, and maybe I will do a quick video on that. What do you think? Would you be like interested in a video like that from me? If so, let me know down in the comments. I still haven't done any of those videos. I didn't do any speculation. I didn't do any of the ranking animals. I didn't do any of the animals that I wanted to see, but I definitely, as I told you guys, have my list, so why not share it with you? This would be probably an easy video to make, I'm not sure, but with my skills I should be probably able to do that. I will see. So you can expect that video to be dropping maybe in a week or two. I will see if I will have time to record it. So as you guys can see, we are done with the building and it's time to finish the entire habitat. So we did also the holding pen, as I told you guys, and now we are working on some different terrain heights to make it look a bit more interesting, and adding nature. So we'll add trees. We'll of course add some tree guards using the metal barrier. I really love using it like this. It is so zoo-ish. You can see those tree guards with just this mesh barrier in zoos so often. So I thought it's just use this habitat, and we also use that for the Scimitar-Horned Oryx that is just next to it. We will of course add some rocks, some rock formations. I recently really love using the rock formations using the stalagmite pieces. I for the first time used it for the giraffe habitat in the desert adventure park, and now I cannot stop, so there will be some of those rock formations in here. And we'll of course add different things like broken logs, like stones, rocks. We'll add a lot of decals to make the terrain look a bit more like varied and textured and so on. And we'll also add some different plants, but I didn't want to go too overboard. I just added some of the grass pieces in the crevices or in the places that will be slightly more difficult for the animals to reach, because they will simply eat those. When it comes to the zebras and the blue wildebeest, they can be very often seen together in the wild because they live in this sort of like a symbiotic relationship. That's why they are also often kept together in the zoos, and that's why I wanted to keep them together in here. So how it works is that they are basically very beneficial to one another because from feeding, the zebra normally feeds on the top parts of the grass or tall grasses, which allows the wildebeest to easily access their preferred grass, which is the short grass. And also the zebra has a great eyesight, which helps spot predators from afar, and the wildebeest have a great sense of hearing, which allows to hear the predators from afar, which means that both species have an ally to help warn them of danger. And since they feed in more like plain open grassy areas, this makes them very vulnerable to attacks, and that's why they need all the safety and all the help that they can get, and that's why they are living in this symbiotic relationship. So yeah, you can often, when you are, for example, going to the safari in Africa, you can see those guys together hanging out. And yeah, when it comes to some other fun facts about the blue wildebeest. So the blue wildebeest got its name as their coat has a blue sheen. There are around 1.5 million living in the Serengeti alone. They are widespread in many areas of Africa. Their main defense from predators is living in group. Wildebeest stick together and move in herds to be more safe. They can run up to 40 miles per hour. They migrate as many as 1,000 miles each year. That's longer than the length of Britain, and around the same distance as from Minnesota to Louisiana. That distance would take around 20 hours to drive. They have a dangerous migratory route. During their migration, they cross two rivers, both of which are crocodile infested. And I think you guys all saw some of those documentaries of the wildebeest crossing the river travelers being unfortunately killed by crocodiles and different animals on their way, but they are super brave animals, and they'll do everything to do their routes to migrate to the areas where they'll simply find food and breed. Yeah, this is the whole history of the blue wildebeest. And on that very positive and brave wildebeest note, we will end today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video, and of course give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave me a nice comment if you liked the video, and if you like to support the channel a little bit extra, you can do it with the join button down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!